it's Melody Brooke again, and I'm here from Denver, Colorado. Today, it's really only 3 o'clock where I'm at, but I paid attention to it at the time so that I could make sure that I could be here for you guys at 4 o'clock if there's anybody tuning in. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what self-care is because I'm kind of being forced to do some self-care today. I traveled to Colorado to go for a ski trip, and yesterday was my first day on the slopes. It was a totally beautiful day. Hi, Daryl. And it was such a beautiful sunshiny day, and I was having a very nice day on the slopes until about 12:30 when I was coming down a blue-black slope, and somebody who apparently didn't know how to ski that well, snowboard that well, just zoomed in from in front of me and crashed right in front of me, where I had no choice but to crash land into them, flip over them, and land on my wrist and sprain my wrist. So even though I'm here on a ski vacation in Colorado for a week, I'm not going to be doing a lot of skiing, at least for a day or so. I think that's Bob there. Hi, Bob. That was David. Hi, David. So I'm going to be doing a lot of self-care. I've been doing a lot of icing, and I met, you know what? I keep looking with my glasses, and it's Michael. Hello, Michael. So welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. So I'm really happy that you guys are here because self-care is not something that guys are typically very good at. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, look at that, now we have another guy. Hi, Danny, welcome. So what self-care really and truly is where you listen to your body and to your heart, to your spirit, and you do what is right for you. And that's so hard for us to do sometimes because a lot of us get trained to, number one, not pay attention to what our body is telling us, guys. You're pretty much raised to do what everybody else thinks you should do, to focus on toughing up, just girding through whatever it is, and not listening to your body. My first husband, I will never forget, he was running 104 temperature. He had strep throat, and he refused to go to the doctor, and I had to drag him to the doctor myself when he got delirious with his pain. So, hi, Jim. So I'd love to hear you guys talk about what your idea of self-care is and if that's something that you have ever even thought about doing for yourself. So women tend to be a little bit better about that. I say that at the same time that I do understand that many times women are so focused on caring for others that they forget to take care of themselves, which is the other thing that we do. So self-care becomes something that we think of as being selfish or lazy or just somehow wrong, and we have a lot of feelings of guilt about it when we do it, even though it is really the most important thing that we have to do, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't do anything for anyone else. It's just like the steward, the flight attendant who says, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Because if you don't put that oxygen mask on yourself first, you will have no oxygen to give to anyone else. You won't be there. You'll be passed out. So we want to keep you alive and functioning and present. And so that requires that you pay attention to yourself. It requires that you pay attention to what your body needs. And on that note, I'm going to run and get a glass of water because I just realized I'm thirsty. So when we live, when you're staying in a place like Colorado, you're in a very high elevation. If you're not used to it, like I'm not because I'm from Dallas, water is really important because if you don't drink enough water, you end up getting dehydrated and then getting what they call that, elevation sickness, altitude sickness, where you get sick because you are not used to that level of altitude. So hi, Chris. And so I'm going to drink some water. And even if you're not in high altitudes, drinking a lot of water is important. And we tend to ignore those things. So I'm really curious what you guys might have experienced in terms of self-care, if you've ever even thought about the need for self-care, and what does that mean? One of the things that I've been most grateful for is seeing that my daughters are pretty good at taking care of themselves. And I recognized this a few years back, when, oddly enough, when I was on a visit with one of my daughters who was living in San Antonio at the time with her sister. And I was standing in the bathroom and she was flossing her teeth. And I don't know, but I just had a very proud mom moment because I realized that she was doing that very good self-care thing, right? So we have to take care of ourselves because as adults, that is our responsibility. When we're children, it's important for us to, as adults, to take care of our children. They are dependent on us to make sure that they get cared for. So our job, I'm going to see who joined us. Hi, Sue Ellen. Sue Ellen, I haven't seen you in decades, and it's nice to see that you're tuning in here. So self-care requires that you pay attention to what your body needs. It's just like if you notice that you haven't had anything to drink in a while, you make sure you drink. It's also doing the difficult things. It's not always the easiest thing to do to take care of oneself because that means sometimes doing things that are not pleasant. I'm not a fan of exercise for the most part. So let's see who joined us. Hi, John. I'd love to hear you guys talk about what your experience with self-care is. So if you have any thoughts about that, please put them in the notes in the comments because I'd love to hear about that. Because self-care is something that guys have a tendency to avoid. And that means they end up with injuries. That means you end up with illnesses that prolonged, like my little brother who ignored his lung capacity problems to the point that he ended up having stage 4 cancer before he recognized that he had a problem. And that, of course, was not a good thing. So paying attention to yourself and listening to what your body needs and what your spirit needs and paying attention to those things that are hard, like making sure that you get enough to eat, that you eat the right foods, that you're not overindulging in alcohol or food or gambling or anything else that we have a tendency to overindulge in because it's fun, right? We're out having a good time and we think, that's taking care of ourselves. It's not taking care of yourself when you're overindulging. So it is taking care of yourself when you set limits on yourself. It's just like with your kids, right? When you have children, you want to make sure that they are taken care of. You want to make sure that they get their needs met, and that means making sure that they don't overindulge, that they don't do things that are not good for them, that they have certain limits to what their behavior is, right? You don't let them stay up too late. You don't let them eat too much. Hi, Christy. Hi, Yusuf. Those of you who haven't been here before, please tell me where you're from and how you found me. I'd love to know about that. And so, if you are a person who is not used to self-care, what that's going to require that you do is, number one, recognize that you are important and that you, even if you can't see your value to yourself, you start noticing the value that you have to the people around you, because there are people in your life who love you and who you matter to. And if you don't take care of yourself, it's not their job to take care of you. It's not another person's job to take care of you, to listen to and pay attention to what you need. Now, it's nice when someone does notice and hand you a glass of water. It's nice when someone asks if you're hungry. It's nice if someone asks if you would like something and pays attention to what you need. But we cannot, as adults, depend on other people to do that. It's our job. And that's the good news, right? Because that means we're not dependent on someone else to do that for us. When we can do that for ourselves, it's yay, it's a celebration. It is what adulthood is all about. It's really about recognizing the need to and the responsibility to take care of ourselves. That means making sure that you get enough exercise. Make sure that you get enough rest. Make sure that you get enough water to drink. And yes, it needs to be water and not sodas or alcohol. It needs to be, or coffee. I'm not saying you can't have those things, but in moderation, right? Everything's about recognizing that having those limits on yourself is how you take care of yourself. You don't let your children have too much sugar. You don't let your children have too much caffeine. You don't let your children stay up too late. You do those things because you love them. So love yourself. That is what self-care really is loving yourself. It's recognizing what you need to do to love yourself. Trust me. Hi, Bill. It's been difficult today, and I will have to do this tomorrow as well. Hi, Donnie. I'm trying to see you without my glasses, so hello, that was Dennis, not Donnie. So, for the next 24 hours, I'm still going to do nothing. I'm not going to hit the slopes. I'm not going to be out there doing those things that I might ordinarily be doing while I'm in Colorado, because taking care of myself, and taking care of myself is my number one job. It's also your number one job. It's as adults, it is each of us, our number one job is to take care of ourselves, even when we have children, especially when we have children. One of the problems that I see coming into my office so often is people who find themselves just unhappy. And they don't understand why they're unhappy. A lot of times they decide they're unhappy and that means they should get a divorce, which isn't necessarily the case. Often their unhappiness is something else. Hi, Matthew. Often their unhappiness is really about themselves. It's about them not paying attention to what they need. Hi, Steve. A lot of guys on today. I'm so glad that you're here. Please comment below if you have had any experience of not taking care of yourself and what the price might have been for yourself. Or if you perhaps have done something, have a routine that's really good for self-care. You know, I think that we tend to think that it means we're being narcissistic, or I'm going to put my glasses on to see who just joined us. Hi, George. Welcome. And it's really not about being selfish or narcissistic when we take care of ourselves. If you take care of your skin, if you take care of your health, if you make sure that you exercise and stay in good shape, that is self-care. That is not being selfish. If you take the time to rest when you need to rest, that is not being selfish. If you take the time as a couple, if you are a part of a couple partnership, if you take the time to indulge in time, special time together, and that means maybe not spending as much time with your children, you know, that's self-care too, because you have to create a marriage or a partnership for your children that allows them to have parents in their life who stay together. And if you don't do that, if you indulge yourself too much in taking care of the children, if you spend too much time in the activities of childcare and the activities of childcare, then you end up not really providing enough self-care for your relationship either, right? And I can't tell you how many times in my office that has been the majority of the problem in their marriage, is that for too many years they've ignored and not taken care of their marriage, which is part of self-care. You have to maintain that awareness of what you need, both in the marriage, in your family, in your workplace, and be conscious of what your spirit is telling you is important for you. The truth is, if I had, I would have no practice if people did that. If people listened to themselves and listened to their higher selves, and not just that part of them that wants to run away from feelings and wants to run away from the hard work of life. Life is a job. It's a job that we, especially if we have children, we have to be conscious of being aware that taking care of ourselves is our job, because we are who they depend on. And even if your children are grown, even if your children have moved away, you still have a responsibility to those people in your life who love you to make sure that you are taken care of. That means going to the doctor when you need to, guys. It means working out, doing the things that are uncomfortable. Educating yourself can be self-care. Taking classes, learning, and exercising your mind is part of self-care. Practicing your spirituality can be part of self-care. Taking the time to do mindfulness meditation can be a very huge part of self-care, because when we go mindful, we go still, we go quiet, we reduce our level of stress, and we improve our overall sense of awareness about what it is that we need. And doing that is a gift not only to ourselves, but it is a gift to everyone in our sphere, everyone that we influence. Because if you don't take the time to take care of you, then you're agitated, you're resentful, you're angry. Believe me, I see this in couples all the time, where one or both members of the coupleship are so angry and resentful toward the other simply because they haven't taken the time to allow themselves to pay attention to what they need and do the things that are important for them. It is the biggest gift that you can give yourself and the people in your life is to provide self-care for yourself. So what are some of the things that are self-care? Well, for women, they do say that getting your nails done is one of those things that helps with self-care. Yes, that is one piece of it. Getting massages is obviously a very nice gift to give yourself. But so is going to therapy is a kind of self-care, because if you are avoiding issues, if you're avoiding feeling things, then maybe you need to go to therapy and allow yourself to do the hard work of digging up that old pain and releasing it so that you can move past it instead of carrying it with you and avoiding it, which a lot of us do through indulging in alcohol or gambling or too much exercise or too much work or too much television or too much of anything. Anything that we do that can alter our mood is potentially addicting. And the reason that we have addictions is because there are things that we are not wanting to face. And that is not good self-care. When we overindulge in anything, whether it's exercise, work, food, sex, whatever it is that we overindulge in, we are doing that to avoid really doing the work of self-care and paying attention to what we need. Sometimes doing the work of self-care means being willing to speak your truth about things that are tough, that are really hard. And sometimes that means challenging a relationship. Sometimes it means risking a relationship, because in fact, in order to have a relationship, and I've said this many, many times, you have to risk the relationship. That means speak your truth with no intent to harm or protect or control the other person. And if you are not doing what it is you need to do for yourself, to care for yourself, then you're setting yourself up to have a disaster in your relationship. You're setting yourself up to be unhappy. And then, because oftentimes this is the biggest cause of divorce, is seeing people who have set aside their own needs, who have not paid attention to what they need to take care of themselves, whether it's education, exercise, relaxation time, playtime, getting enough sexual satisfaction within the context of the relationship. They just keep their mouth shut and they don't say what they need. And then as a result, they build resentment and they build perhaps distance, or even perhaps they have an affair because they've kept so much of themselves private that they have not allowed another person in, and they are not doing what they need to do for themselves, and then they blame their partner for it. They tell me, this person was unhappy, whenever I said something. Well, of course they're not going to necessarily always agree with you. They're not going to always want to do what you want to do. They're not always going to be happy about what you say. They're not always even going to respect your opinion. But that doesn't mean they don't love you, and it doesn't mean they don't want you to speak your truth. That was really hard for me to learn, to understand that self-care means being willing to speak my truth, even if somebody else doesn't like it. That doesn't mean that they're not still going to love me and be in relationship with me just because they're unhappy about it. It's okay for them to be unhappy about it. It's, in fact, fine that they're unhappy about it. They don't have to like it just because I do. They don't have to be happy about something that matters to me. They don't. Sometimes it does get to the point where two people want very different things, and that does mean the dissolution of the relationship, but that's okay. It's better than both people being unhappy, isn't it? Self-care is about paying attention to what you need. It's also about making sure that you put limits on yourself, just like you would an outside child. I often have clients who have no clue how to listen to and pay attention to their own needs. And what I have them do is I have them visualize themselves as a small child. Or, if you have a child, it's really nice because then that makes it easier. What would you want for this child? What limits would you put on their behavior? What things would you provide for them? What things would you not provide for them? What things would you protect them from? Those are the things that you have to do for yourself. It's your job as an adult to do that. Now, what I also recognize is that if you grew up in an atmosphere where your needs were not met, where you were treated badly, we tend to treat ourselves the way that we were treated growing up. So if you were neglected, you're much more likely to neglect yourself. If you were abused in some way, you're much more likely to abuse yourself in some way. You end up putting yourself in dangerous situations, being attracted to people who are not good for you, and it feels right, it feels comfortable, and that, of course, is not good self-care. We also sometimes set ourselves up to be abusive to ourselves when we had perhaps over-controlling or over-corrective parents who were very punitive or critical, and so then we do that to ourselves. We criticize and we punish ourselves because that's what our parents did. And I'm not blaming your parents, because all of our parents did the best they could with the information that they had at the time. They did what they could do. But at the same time, now as adults, it's our job to make sure that we take care of ourselves, that we don't treat ourselves the way our parents treated us. It's our job to start treating ourselves with the kindness and the love and the support and the kind of responsible care that we would to an outside child, right? That is the biggest, hardest trick, is to start seeing ourselves with empathy and recognizing that we deserve that care, that we deserve the opportunity to listen to the child in our heart and see what it is that they need and provide that for them. And don't expect anybody else to do it, because nobody else can know at our heart what needs to happen. Oftentimes what happens in marriages is that we get married expecting our partner to make us happy, our partner to do those things for us that perhaps our parents didn't do for us. And then as a result, we're unhappy because we're going to be let down if we expect another adult to know what is good for us, to know automatically what we want. A lot of times, women in particular are guilty of expecting their husbands to read their minds, to think to expect them to know just somehow automatically what it is they need. And the truth is, nobody can know what you need better than you do. And your partner can't know what you need unless you express it to them. That's part of self-care, is being willing to speak your truth about what it is you need. Now, when we're in partnership, sometimes that means making sacrifices and adjusting and making compromises here and there. But on the whole, you have to be willing to allow the other person's needs to matter to you, but to choose for yourself. About that, somebody keeps trying to call me. So when you are taking care of yourself, you also have to be conscious, of course, that taking care of your partner matters to you, and that means you're going to do some things for them to care for them too, right? It's not selfish, but it is number one that you have to recognize and take care of your own needs before you do anything else. Hi, George. Hi, Steve. Thank you guys for being here today. And I just want you to know that I know this season is really tough for a lot of people, and there's a lot of stress, and I get really frustrated with this time of the year because people have so many expectations for themselves, and that's not really good self-care, right? So let go of some of those expectations. Allow yourself just to be wherever you're at. And some of us are alone on Christmas, some of us are alone during the holidays, and that makes it very hard. And so recognize that everybody's dealing with something, even if you're not aware of what it is. And a lot of times on Facebook, it looks like everybody's, doing, because people only post the good stuff, and I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't, but it kind of sets us up to feel like we are not doing as well as others because we're posting their good stuff. They're not always going to post the bad stuff. Sometimes they will, but most of the time people will be responsible and not post all their garbage on Facebook. So part of self-care is not comparing yourself to other people. Just being with yourself and knowing what's happy and what makes you happy. It's like I was talking to a friend of mine recently he's in his early 60s. He's fit, and he is divorced, and he's got a girlfriend, but he's decided that he's going to go take some months to live in another country for a while just to experience that. He doesn't have a regular kind of a job. He picks up jobs here and there, and a lot of people would criticize him because he's not, what kind of job does he have, and where does he live, and all that stuff. Well, what matters most is that he's doing what he feels called to do, what feels right to him. And that's what we all have to do. That is our responsibility. Number one is to pay attention to what we need, do what's right for us. And oftentimes, that's going to make other people unhappy. Oftentimes, it's going to mean making sacrifices for other people because that's what's going to make us happy. We have to know what's right for us and not do anything for anyone else that doesn't come from a place of wholeheartedness, where we wholeheartedly choose to do that for another person. So if I give a gift to someone else, I'm wholeheartedly doing it, meaning I'm not expecting anything in return. I don't expect any particular result from that. I'm doing it because it brings me joy. So if you give a gift to someone else, whether it's a gift of service or a gift of time or a gift of substance, material things, whatever it is, you give it because you want to, not because you feel like you have to. So don't go out and buy a bunch of gifts for people because you think you have to at Christmas time. I hate the consumerism that Christmas has become, when the truth is it's a celebration of a very spiritual time, whether it's symbolic or otherwise. It's a very wonderful spiritual time for most people, with whatever religion they are. Celebrate that. Celebrate the joy of connection to other people. That's what self-care is. It's not running out there and making sure that you buy the most or best Christmas presents for anyone, because nobody's going to care in a few months anyway. What they will remember is how they felt. They will remember the joy of your presence, your connection, having those moments of intimacy with people that you love. That's what will matter in the long run, not the things that you did. That's what is self-care, is taking the time. Well, hi there, J. Lee Gill. That's my brother, and I have not seen you in ages and ages. I'm trusting that your family is well and that you're celebrating this holiday season. And I hope you are taking care of yourself, because it's so important. You have a beautiful family. Hi, Barry. Wow, nice to have you here. So when you are taking care of yourself, you have to listen to what you need. And that often means taking the time to sit with yourself. And that sometimes seems lazy to people, right? Just sitting, drinking. And I have a friend who has the coffee on the porch side. He meditates every morning with his cup of coffee and takes the time to really listen to himself. And who else do we have? Glenn Earl. Hi, glad to have you. So take that time to listen to what you need, because if you don't, nobody else is going to read your mind. Nobody else can read your mind. They can't know what's best for you. Only you can know that. And that is ultimately what self-care is. Recognizing what you need and acting on it. Being willing to speak your truth, even if it makes somebody else unhappy. And being willing to listen to other people's feelings about whatever that is. And being willing to share your feelings with other people. Being willing to do what's good for you. Take your vitamins, eat right, work out, take the classes that you need to take, exercise your mind, spend time with friends and family, do the things that bring you joy. That's what good self-care is. And I know for a lot of guys, it can be challenging to listen to yourself, listen to your body, because you've been taught through decades and decades, perhaps, to ignore what your body is experiencing. And I know that, that's that sort of military sports mentality, is just to push through it. But when you are not listening to your body, you're endangering yourself. It's like I've hurt my wrist out on the ski slopes yesterday, so I am having to take the time off to let my arm heal before I get back out on the slopes, if I even can do that. I don't know. I'm going to have to see how I'm doing. I may end up not getting to ski all week, and that may be my challenge for self-care this week, is finding other ways to enjoy this time I'm here in Colorado. But that is ultimately my job. It's not anybody else's job. Is to make sure that I do what I need to do for me to make sure that I'm okay. It's not anybody else's job to do that. I'll probably end up getting a massage tomorrow just because that's really the only thing I can think of to do tomorrow. So tell me if you have had struggles with that, and please post it below. I'd be interested in knowing more about what kind of struggles you guys have in particular with the idea of self-care. But self-care starts with listening to yourself, going into meditation, going into prayer, taking that time, the coffee on the porch that my friend Larry does on a daily basis, taking that time to listen inside and allowing yourself to feel whatever that is. Sometimes that means releasing old feelings that are not comfortable. Sometimes it means being courageous enough to go in and do the hard work of therapy, which, that's not for the weak. That's not for the weak at heart, because anybody willing to face their pain like that is a courageous, brave person in my book. And I have been fortunate enough to help a lot of people through a lot of pain over the years, and seeing the courage that people it blows my mind, because there are so many people out there who are courageous enough to do it. So I would challenge you this season to take the time to listen to what you need and not just push yourself through whatever it is that you're faced with. If you need somebody to talk to, find a therapist, find someone that you can reach out to. You can do it online, if not in person, and take the time to make sure that you get what you need. Don't overindulge. Make sure that you eat right. Make sure that you exercise and get enough rest, and that you don't push yourself to overspend just because it feels like you have to do that. Because your presence is far more of a gift to people than any material thing that you could give them. So I have no idea what the time is, but I'm guessing it's pretty close to my time to sign off. But you can find out more about me at melodybrooke.com. You can also follow me on my Melody Brooke LMFT LPC page, and you can also follow me on YouTube. And you can check out my book. It's called Oh Wow, This Changes Everything. It's on Amazon. And thank you for being here today, and I will see you next Monday at 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. See you then. Bye.